Hey, what's happening? Robert Phoenix here. It is uh, Wednesday morning. Wow. I had to do a reality check there. And thanks for hanging in there. I'm running a little behind this morning, obviously. I had a 3 hour show last night with the Leo King, David Palmer, over on his channel. Some of you probably have seen that. If not, I'll leave a link in the description of the show here so you can go over and check it out. It was kind of an epic show, I have to say. And it was crazy. The time thing was crazy. So we started off at 6:30 my time. And we were done, I think, by 9:30. And then all of a sudden, it went from 9:30 to 11:30 here. It was really weird. It was like there was this 2 hour gap. It just went like that. It was like I started making some food after the show, and then the next thing you know, it's fucking 11:30 at night. It was really weird, and it's not like I had any missing time or anything. Like I didn't get on some sort of craft, but it was very strange, very very strange. Anyway, check out the interview. David, super generous host, and we rocked it pretty good last night, and we're gonna have another meeting of the astrological minds over on the 11th house channel, and that will be. Well, come on up here. Come on. Look who's here. That will be on Sunday night. So check that show out. We didn't leave a lot of meat on the bones, and so I was up till probably about 1:30, maybe later. And because I couldn't sleep. It was just a strange time thing. Now I got emergency vehicles going back and forth across my street. What a weird time to live in. What a very strange time. But you have Jasper, and I'm here, and you're here, and that's what matters. That's what counts. Then once I got to sleep, at about 4:30, I have these speakers that are hooked up to my TV. They're huge. They're like for, an event. Some of you who came to the event in October know those speakers. We use them for Masaki and his little rave party. So at about 4:30 in the morning, the power went off. And when it came back on, those speakers came back on, and the default for the speakers is it's not Bluetooth. I think it's radio, because there's a radio inside there. And when it came on, it went to the radio, not dialed in, and so I got white noise at a really loud volume, and it woke me up, and I didn't know what the fuck it was. It was one of those moments, like, what is that? So then I got up and I turned the speakers off, and then I stumbled back to bed. And then I basically got up about, about a half hour ago. So it was pretty intense time, pretty intense night in a good way. Very intense time we're living in. I'm going to try to break some of that down. Jasper, you are the avatar of consistency. Look at him. The avatar of consistency. Let me check in with you guys. Let's see who's here. Natasha, present and accounted for. The lovely Lisa Marie. Susan Cano, coming in from the 510. What's going on, Susan? Michael Pafford. Good to see you, brother. Let's see. T. Jordan, what's going on, Thomas? Nice to see you. Leon Luis. Jasper. Yes, I know. There we go. Yeah, there we go. He likes the whiskers. You like the whiskers, don't you? Yeah. Paul Netton. Paul, have you gotten my package yet? Have you received your package from Texas? Question mark. I'll check in with you later. Uncle Glenn, what's going on, brother? Lils is here. So is Mark Matheny. Look at that guy. Laura D. Present. Joe Mama. Hello, Joe Mama. Jennifer Rubin, Army style motivation astrology left me feeling like David was talking over my head. He's Alex Jones Galaxy. I can kind of see that a little bit. I can kind of see that. David has got an amazing capacity to go back and remember where really even minute transits were taking place. Like I would have to really think about it and dial in. But he's amazing. He's a library when it comes to those transits. Really phenomenal. He's mad respect for the Leo King. Andrea Garland. Hello, Andrea. Watching a great video about COVID. Glenn, can you put that? I think you're a mod. Can you put that in the chat box? Is that possible? Let's see, who else do we have here? Rolling blackout. Not so much, Unca. Not so much, although I think we might have had something. The rolling blackouts are supposed to be you get power for a half an hour and then it's off for 2. We're going to talk about that. What's going on? Snake? Is Snake here? No, it's Shannon Jones, not Snake Jones. Hi, Shannon. Power out in Portland. Carolina Pines, high lightning. Evangeline G, good morning from Western North Carolina. I woke up randomly at 4 this morning. Maybe it was my sonic distress that woke you up. Vanessa Baker, good morning from Ohio. Hi, Vanessa. Good to see you. So glad to have been introduced to your world. It's wonderful, right? How we get to connect with one another. I mean, this is kind of the upside of Aquarius. Mary Grether, crazy weather here in Texas. It's going to get crazier. We're supposed to have more snow tomorrow. Faith's RV trip. She's here. Hi, Tamara. Listening only as I shovel snow off my driveway. Tamara, you are an inspiration to us all, and I mean that. Victoria V, she's here. Look at Jasper. He's feeling very affectionate today. Look at him. If I could, I saw this video. You know, it's one of those cat videos. And I saw this video. I wish I could find it because they just kind of randomly show up and then go away. It was this video of this dog that was being attacked in his backyard by a tabby, an orange tabby like Jasper. And there was a calico, not like my calico, but sort of the patchwork quilt calico. And she ran up and attacked the cat for attacking the dog. It's a great video. Benito Diaz. Hey, Benito. What's going on, my man? Nice to see you. It was a good show for sure. Ryan in the house. How you doing, Ryan? How's that wrist? I'd love to find out what happened to you, how that happened. Lightning Stream. You're new from David. Welcome. PB. What's going on? Slept well. I don't know if I slept well. I did sleep. There's Snake. There he is. I knew he was lurking somewhere. That much of an information exchange can make the brain experience things in a strange way. I know, right? I mean, keeping up with David, and I love it, right? Because it's really stimulating. And I've got Jupiter Uranus trine in my chart, so it allows me to be improvisational and connect a lot of dots. So I like it, but I could imagine what it would be like to sit there and try and take all that in, because it's got to be pretty stimulating. Hello, H. Suttles. How are you? Pam Jerome checking in from Michigan. The moon approaches Mars tomorrow. Yes, we'll have a moon-Mars conjunction in the final degrees of, well, what are we at with? It's going to be mid degrees of Taurus. Second decan, Virgo. People are going to be very practical. Very, very practical. Nancy Harding of the Harding Girls, she's here. David Olmstead, the highway traffic controller. What's going on, David? Nice to see you. W.C. Ray. Morning, W.C. Carissa Pollock. Hello, Carissa. Christine Bowes. Hi back. Justice Moody. Hello, Justice. Mama Misty Minor, Triple M. Craig Corporon, back for another live one. Yes, we are here together. Bob77 is here. MK. Mark that video. It is up on Robert's channel and Leo King's. Mark that video is up on Robert's. I'll put it up. Let's see. Susie Escobar. What's going on, Susie? Yeah, man, it was 3 hours of just Army style motivation. Back to Jennifer's comment. The Army style motivation, yeah. The army of truth and love. I saw Joan in there. Morning, Miss Joan. There she is. Lisa Dawn T. Seguin. Laugh a lot. We have a Bluetooth speaker that came on by itself in the middle of the night last night. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right around 4-ish. Wow. Same thing. It was shocking. Or shocking, to say the least. Lots of white noise. When will white noise become racist? Now, pink noise, which is a true thing, by the way, pink noise, I'm sure, will not come under any cultural fire but backlash. But white noise, however, that's a different subject. They may have to, but then you get into, well, what would you name it? Would you name it black noise? Because it's not very palatable. You know, it's harsh on the ears. So I'm not sure black noise would be suitable for white noise. In fact, it would be harsh. And if you're trying to, redress the oppression in the language, I'm not sure you would want to use black noise. Gray noise. Well, the problem with that is it doesn't sound gray. You would think of gray as being flat, monochromatic, but this is bright. It's like bright white, like harsh. It's like the harsh white light of interrogation. That's what white noise sounds like. Although white noise, in some ways, when it's modulated, can actually be quite relaxing. But you have to modulate it. So we'll return to that topic. What about red noise? Sounds like communism. Okay, let's see. Yes, Snake, we're going in deep tomorrow. Paula Tuttle, I'm toggling between this show and your show last night. How funny. Funny. Yeah, what a face for Jasper, right? Now he's into the birds. We've got snow melt here, starting to melt, and I think we're getting more snow on Thursday. Ay. That wasn't supposed to happen. Hello, Ani. Good to see you. Ani had the best comment on David's chat yesterday. Ani is a badass. Mr. Cruz, what's going on, Johnny? Chartreuse noise. Kind of like that. Christy Daniels. Hi, Christy. I saw you over on David's channel last night. Mary Mack, stay warm. Yes. Benito says he's up in near Dallas, outside of Dallas. Had to abandon my place and hike to some family a few miles north of me. No power, no water. They are fucking attacking Texas. Let's just call it how we see it. They are attacking Texas, and they're going to attack the rest of the United States of America. It is on. They want to dispossess us of power, food, water, and guess what else? Firearms. They've already dispossessed us from our family, from our friends, and from our work. And if you don't think that this is a full frontal assault on the people of the United States of America, you need to wake up and smell the napalm, because it is on. It is on. And meanwhile, we have President Nano, who won't meet with the press. It's too cold, too wintry. He's not even president. They're supposed to have this G7 or G8 or whatever it is meeting, G20, whatever G they're congregating with, and it's going to be interesting to see how Biden shows up or not. Will he send somebody else? Will he send Kamala Harris? Will he send the Secretary of State? We're living in clown world. Nancy Dickerson, it's 16 above zero this morning. The attack on Texas by the controllers, guess they don't like the fact that Texas is fighting back. Well, it's interesting because the guy who put the bill for secession in Texas is right here in Fredericksburg. I know him. I know Kyle. We've talked, and fair amount. I shop at his hardware store, and he received an undue amount of flack when he proposed this bill. He got a lot of heat from the people in Austin. He got a lot of heat from, the libtards in this town. I keep thinking now, well, do I have to watch what I say because I'm running for city council? No, I'm not going to do that. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. There will be some things I probably won't talk about because, well, you don't talk about certain things that you have rolling around in your head. But there are other things that I will continue to address. And so Kyle caught a lot of heat. There was a big op-ed in the newspaper calling him out from a so-called Republican, whatever that means these days. Joe will be too busy playing Pac-Man. I think Mario Kart was his game of choice. Dylan Adams, Maryland weather sucks. I think there are a few more things about Maryland that might suck. I've been watching a lot of, it's weird. I get into these things sometimes. I've been watching a lot of old high school championship games, state championship games, boys high school state championship games. And really from 4 areas: Maryland, Chicago, Michigan, and New Jersey. And one of the things that one of the games that I saw, or a couple of the games that I saw, featured this guy Bob Wade, who was the head coach, I think, at Dunbar High, which fielded one of the great high school basketball teams of all time. I think there were 5 guys on that team that went on to play in the NBA, most notably Alonzo Mourning and Muggsy Bogues, who was the shortest player ever to play in the NBA. And Bob Wade left Dunbar High, and he went to coach at the University of Maryland. And he got in trouble for recruiting. Like, he had recruiting violations, serious recruiting violations, and it impacted the school. The school had lost some eligibility. They had their tournament wins, I think, in his second season taken away. And he got fired because they were paying players. By the way, that was not at all uncommon in colleges back then. And it's still not uncommon, although a high school game is pretty much toast. Anyway, after that happened, there were players who, from Maryland, which is a very rich basketball state, mostly DC and Baltimore, they boycotted going to school in Maryland because of what happened to Bob Wade. Bob Wade fucking cheated, okay? They all cheated. He got caught. And it's like, well, we're not gonna go to Maryland because Coach Wade got busted. They fired Coach Wade. It's like, this is everything you need to know. This mindset around cancel culture and the celebration of victimization has been around for a long time. Like this was happening in the 90s with Bob Wade at Maryland. And I'm not dissing Bob Wade. He got caught. And a lot of coaches did it. You didn't do it, you would not have a top 25 program, I guarantee you. You might get lucky. You might get lucky. You might get one or two recruits like Loyola Marymount. They had, and who knows what happened there. Like how did Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers, two of Philadelphia's greatest basketball players at a high school level, wind up at a school in Loyola, right? Loyola, California, which is where is that? I think it's out near like Malibu, that area, right? It's out there. How did that happen? I think they went to another school. I think they went to USC. I think that's what happened. And then guess what happened? They got caught in a recruiting scandal at USC, and then they transferred. But that program got lucky because they got two players, and in college basketball, you get two stars, and you can turn your program around. At least that's the way it used to be. You get two blue chip players, and man, Pete Maravich was a blue chip player, and he carried that LSU team. They never made the playoffs, by the way. They never made the NCAA playoffs. And I'm not even sure they had a winning record. See, that's the weird legacy of Pete Maravich. He was an amazing player, but his teams that he played on, with the exception of high school, did not have winning records. Anyway, I just wanted to share the Bob Wade story because that thing has been going on for a long time. And then eventually Gary Williams becomes coach at Maryland. And then Keith Booth, who was a local player, decided that he was going to go to Maryland and break the trend. And eventually Gary Williams winds up taking the Terrapins to the NCAA. He's a very successful coach, by the way, Gary Williams. I don't know why I'm talking about high school basketball from the 90s. But I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant to kind of our current situation, which is going to get worse, by the way. Let's see. Sad what happened to Hank. Wow. Okay, I know a lot of you are just not into sports, but I'm going to recommend a documentary. It's the 30 for 30 documentary, and it has to do with the Loyola Marymount team, and Paul Westhead is the coach, and he's really into Shakespeare, and the way that this thing is done, the way that episode is directed, it's incredible. It's really incredible. And so Hank Gathers, it's crazy how these guys have heart conditions and they don't know about it. Hank Gathers had a heart condition, and he was a force. I mean, Hank was a real force. If he had gone on to play in the NBA, he would have been a really, really good player. And Paul Westhead's style of basketball was running up and down the court. Their idea and goal was, we're going to shoot more shots than you will, and we're going to make more, and we're going to run you right out of the gym. So it was a very physical type of brand of basketball, no defense. And Hank Gathers started to have some issues, and he took a physical, and he had heart issues. And so they gave him, some medicine so that he could get his irregular heartbeat back into more regularity. But he wasn't as good as a player. It was affecting his performance. So what did he do? He stopped taking his medicine, right? He stopped taking it. His play got better, but then he has this moment. He has this moment where, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And you can witness it. He collapses on the court during a game, and you can see the look in his eyes that he knows he's going to die. You can see it. You can see the fear. You can see the shock. You can see the fear. Like I'm not promoting it from a voyeuristic perspective, But it is, if you want to understand what that moment looks like, Hank Gathers will tell you. And he dies. He dies in like 3/4 of the way through their season. And this was a team that was, I think they were undefeated, or they had one loss. And they went to the NC2As, and his buddy from high school, this is a really great story. Bo Kimball shot every single free throw left-handed in honor of Hank Gathers. Now, think about that. He's not left-handed. He's a guy who's a big-time scorer. He's going to go to the line. And if you're Paul Westhead, you're thinking, my God, we're going to lose out on all these free points if Bo misses these shots. But he didn't. Bo Kimball made those shots. It's an amazing thing to witness. And the only reason they lost, I think they would have had a chance to win. And this was a team that was really built around a bunch of overachieving players, really, to be honest with you. They lost to the UNLV team, who were a bunch of cheaters, by the way. I mean, talk about a dirty program. That was Jerry Tarkanian was dirty. Be as dirty as the snow on the street that's melting right now. So they're the ones that ultimately beat Loyola Marymount. But it's an incredible 30-for-30. And I know a lot of you have time on your hands. You may want to check it out. Let's see. I remember the controversy that the media kept filming. No one cared that he refused to take medicine to win a game. Athletes are like that. They will do shit like that. They're really, really hyper-competitive people play by different rules. There are stories of players in the NFL, like Byron Leftwich and Jack Youngblood, Jack Youngblood played 3 games, including a Super Bowl, with a broken leg. Byron Leftwich played an entire game at Marshall with a broken leg. It's just a different kind of mindset. It's a different. Ronnie Lott cut his pinky off, right? The tip of his finger. I think it's his. I think it was his ring finger. It was his ring. Middle of the game. It's like cut it off. It's a different mindset. And Hank Gathers had that mindset. It's just different. Most people don't understand it. They don't. They don't understand what it's like to be hyper competitive. And that hyper competitive nature has been socially engineered out of us. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'd rather have hyper competitive than jellyfish compliant. Let's see. I was looking at a solar setup this morning. So if you're going to have alternative power, what I would recommend is solar is good. Don't skimp on your solar cells. Get the best solar cells you can get. There's a Canadian company that makes really good solar cells. And also look into wind. And I know this sounds counterintuitive because of what's happening with the turbines, but you can get a wind turbine, small wind turbine with a generator. You can get them. You can get a good one for about $300. Don't skimp on that either. Really good ones will cost you upwards of $5 to $8. You can probably find a decent one for $3, but you want both. And you can actually hook both up in the same system, right? You can use the same converter and go through you can go through the same inverter depending on your array and how many. Look at that fat ass pigeon. The pigeons have arrived now. There's a big pigeon. Word is out on the street that I've got the food. It's not just the Cardinals have competition now. They're looking around. I haven't been able to feed them this morning. Anyway, if you're gonna go alternate energy, solar cells, don't skimp, get good ones, and supplement with your own version of a windmill. Today, I'm not sure how it's going to help because there's a ton of cloud cover. But what you would want to do is you'd want to store your electricity so you have them in your batteries. Get good batteries too. Don't skimp on your batteries. get good batteries. And you'd want at least maybe three that you could charge, and then you'd have three that you could have in reserve, so that you could use the three that you have and deploy them with inverters throughout your house. And then you'd have another three that are being charged, and you swap them out, right? With a normal battery, you could probably get in a good charge with a freezer. You could probably get about a day and a half of a charge on that. About a day and a half. So you'd have another day and a half to charge up your other battery. Basic, right? Basic. Okay. They have vertical windmills that don't have long propellers. Yeah. Basically, that's what I'm talking about. And some people have working fireplaces. Some people don't. Or some people have fireplaces that don't work. They could be walled off, or a lot of places will have chimneys. And you can use a chimney to attach your propeller with if it's not working. Or you can find another part on your roof. Usually a good place, because I have them, those little vents that turn around, spin around, where the heat or whatever is coming out of. Those are good places, because you know that they're getting kind of optimal wind or optimal draft. Around there is a good place. Lithium battery is the best. Yes, you're right. They're good. They're very good. Those deep cycle marine batteries, which are expensive, like really expensive, but they're good. They hold charges for a much longer time. Let's see. Pigeon called by chefs. Squab. That's funny. My landlord has us on all solar. You got a good landlord. I'm waiting for the release of cold fusion science. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Cold fusion, hydrogen cells for your cars, which is available. They can do it. We could, lean into free energy, which they have. That would be optimal, wouldn't it? But they're not going to do that. The other one who would do that would be like the Antichrist. Oh, I'm going to bring you free energy. I'm going to make the world a paradise. Isn't this great? But they're going to want people like on their knees before that moment happens. Trick is, do not use a kettle or toaster off them. They eat batteries and generators. Interesting. I'm stoic until the coffee stops flowing. Christine knows. That's her philosophy. John Sullivan, a.k.a. Jaden X, Buffalo guy, BLM activist, extremist who filmed Ashley Babbitt, death in U.S. Capitol, showed court invoices to CNN and NBC for $35,000 each for the video clip. Yeah, he's a little Army intel, military intel, double agent creep. That's who he is. And Ani says that marine battery and RV. I don't have solar yet. Let's see. Steve Letro, all western half of NVS cross country race. The guy next to me had leg all wrapped out. I asked, what is wrong with your leg? He said, broken. I have a scholarship running on this season. He won. That's the hyper-competitive spirit. That's what happens when you have a hyper-competitive spirit. You have a mindset, and nothing is going to get in the way of that mindset. I was watching on Any Sunday, which is the Bruce Brown film on motorcycle racing back from the 1970s. And the stories that these guys had were incredible. This one guy, he'd broken some bones in his back, and he had his back cast cut off so he could enter a race. And this was not a race where he was going to win a shit ton of money. Ironically, his name was Dick Mann. I thought, okay, there we go. Dick Mann. You know, if you have a name like Dick Mann and you keep it as Dick Mann, you know that that's a person who is really okay with themselves. Not Richard. It's Richard. It's Richard Mann. No, it's Dick Mann. And he was a real man. He cut off his back cast. My father, true story, my father worked with a guy by the name of Harry Peter. Who would name their kid Harry Peter? I don't, to me, that's just mind blowing. You sit around and go, what about Harry? It was your father's name. It's your, I don't know if he's Harry Peter the second, but who would name their fucking kid Harry Peter? Jesus, you would think that they would know better. Could you imagine growing up, Harry Peter? True story. I'll tell you another story. This one's really funny. So my father was friends with this guy named Marvin. I could not understand why my father was friends with Marvin. Marvin Gordon. And Marvin was Jewish. Oh, there's a squirrel. Squirrels emerged. And he was sort of, how do I say this? Painfully Jewish. My father was friends with him. We spent a lot of time with Marvin. I didn't really like him. He had a very nice wife. I mean, she married him. And apparently she was, this is how he met her. He met her in his apartment complex because her boyfriend kicked her out. Like literally kicked her out. Like she was in the hallway. That's how he met her. She was actually a really nice person. She was Filipino. And she had this daughter who was like crazy psychic. It was a trip. So I was really good at that game, was it concentration, where you flip the cards over and then you remember where they are and there's matches. And you match them. So, and she was younger than me. I think I was probably around 12 or 13. Well, I think let's call it 12. And she might have been the daughter, might have been, I don't know, 7. And they set up this concentration match between me and the daughter because they knew that this little girl was crazy psychic. She could just turn cards over without knowing what the fuck was underneath the card. And I sat there and I played this first game with her and I was blown away. I'm like, holy shit. This is something. You know, I'm up against a savant here. This is, I've never encountered anything like this before because I have a really good memory. It was much better before years of degrading brain cells. Still pretty good. And I did this thing with her. And I didn't even know that I was doing it, but it was a Scorpio rising kind of thing. And I just got hyper focused, hyper focused. And I got really dialed in on where the cards were. And when she made a couple of mistakes, because she wasn't perfect, but she was pretty damn close. Like I pounced on those mistakes because I remember where the cards were. She did not have a memory, but she had something else going on. It was really interesting. And I beat her. And you know what she did? She quit after that game. She wouldn't play me again because she knew on some level that, you know, she had encountered a different kind of force. And I was hyper competitive. I hated losing. I used to practice games and, you know, understanding the rules of games, the games that I would have at my house. And then when my friends would come over, I'd kick their ass, you know, and even little games like tabletop soccer, I got really good at that. And it was tabletop soccer. We didn't call it foosball. I had a really early version of it. And then when I was in high school, I was buddies with this guy, Joe, who was a soccer player. Joe was like a rock star. He was really, you know, he had long hair, feathered back. He was Portuguese, really good looking guy, super good. He was, you know, and we were buddies and We got in a lot of trouble together, a lot of trouble. But one of the things that we used to do is we used to go play foosball at the game centers. And let's just say we got a problem with the internet. Let's just say Joe and I had some very stimulating chemicals in our system. Very stimulating chemicals. I'll let you fill in the blanks. So we would go to these foosball, the game centers, and we would kill people. Joe was really good at the finesse. He was really good at the finesse. And I was just like hyper Scorpio focused. So that when I was playing defense or when I was playing on the offensive side, I was like, my reflexes are really quick. Hand-eye is really good. I'm slow as fuck when it comes to running, but that stuff was like lightning fast. And with the kind of elevated level of being stimulated, it was like crazy. So we would just smoke people. So he would have the finesse and I would have just, if you were trying to get the ball from your defensive end and I was on offense, it wasn't going to happen. I was just going to wear you down. You were not getting it past my guys. And eventually I would just unload on the goal. Those were the times, and we were hyper competitive. And even amongst each other, we were hyper competitive. Maybe not broken leg hyper competitive, but that's the shit we did. Anyway, the Marvin story. Here we go. This is the Marvin story. So Marvin was one of these guys who was not really respected. He was kind of liked as a goofball, but not really respected. So they came up with this idea. I think I told this story a long time ago, but a lot of you do. And there was this guy. They could have made a TV series. My father was a warehouseman. And all these guys had these nicknames. There was a guy named the Animal. The Animal. And the Animal was known to have drugs. He was the drug dealer at the warehouse. So they got together and they decided they were going to play a prank on Marvin. So the Animal walks up to him at work and offers him a mint and a lifesaver mint. And he takes it. And I think about 20 minutes later, somebody walks up to Marvin and says, "Hey, have you seen the Animal around?" He says, "Well, yeah." He says, "Whatever you do, don't take one of his mints." And Marvin's like, "Why?" "They're laced with LSD. Don't take the mint." And of course, Marvin took the mint like 20 minutes ago. So about 5 minutes later, all the dudes in the warehouse start moving around in slow motion. They start moving around in slow motion. So Marvin gets all freaked out, like, he's high on acid. And he starts to, oh, I can't be. So then he leaves work. He leaves work and he goes home because he took this LSD lifesaver placebo. Well, my father told me that story. I laughed my ass off because they could pull it off with him. He was really gullible, super gullible. Anyway, yeah, it's funny shit, huh? That is so funny. That was so. You couldn't do that now. You just couldn't do that now. That shit doesn't happen. People have lost their creative imagination in that way. And people are so sensitive now. You do something like that, you'll lose your fucking job. And they're anti-Semitic because they played a trick on Marvin, who happens to be Jewish. You're all anti-Semite white nationalists. You're all fired. That's what would happen. Let's see. Poor Marvin. He kind of deserved it. Marvin kind of deserved it. I hate to say it. He was a bit of a putz. He was a likable putz. I don't know why my father hung out with him, though. I could not figure that out. My father would do that? He'd pick up strays. And I think Marvin was in one of his stray categories. He did that a lot. You know, he would have like these young guys come over to his house who didn't really have a father figure, and he'd bring them over to the garage and they would make shit together. That's what my father did. He was good at that. I kind of understand that. I have my own version of that, but I'm not a tinkerer. He was a total tinkerer, as you can see by the rings. He made this ring right here, right there. There's the old Thunderbird there, the Phoenix, and he made this ring, right? Gold coin. So they would do shit. He was a good guy. He was a really good guy that way. He's a Leo. Leos have heart. They have heart. Evidence the Leo King. All right, let's do a little invocation here. We're going to get on some serious stuff. We have to have a few moments of levity to offset the gravity. Dear, blessed, and holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Emmanuel, and all the great avatars who have walked upon this snowy plain of our existence. And boy, can we use you now. We ask that only the highest and best information, wisdom, and truth come through this channel for each and every one of us. And we affirm and decree the qualities of clarity, perception, focus, concentration, discernment, truth, wisdom, the power to speak it, the courage to enact it, and the humility to understand the motivation and the application. We ask that we be filled with compassion and empathy, courage, flexibility, balance, synergy, humor, and above all, love. If there is any karmic residue, we ask to be clarified, removed, purified, cleansed. So be it. Okay, let's go. I wanted to, somebody sent me something, a good friend, Lisa, sends me a lot of good stuff. She sent me this. I'm going to show you guys. This is interesting. And this gets to kind of where we're at with everything here in Texas. Screen share. And not just in Texas. It's with the United States and the planet. So this came off of Facebook, and it says here the new director of ERCOT is a Gretchen Whitmer stooge. The Michigan governor loved her so much, she appointed her to a position that worked directly with her at her pleasure. Those are quotes, and I wonder what Whitmer's pleasure was. ERCOT is the entity that's in control of the Texas power grid. They created these blackouts that Texans have never seen before, and that's killing our elderly. If you don't understand that we're in a genocidal program, you're not aware. I hate to say it. It may sound brutal. It may sound fear-mongering, but we are in a genocidal program now. This is what's happening. Just 6 days ago, Sally took helm as ERCOT director, and now these California-style rolling blackouts are happening for the first time in Texas history. I knew this was political. So who is Sally? By the way, Sally can't dance. Who is Sally? Let's find out. Her name is Sally Talberg. Sally Talberg. Now, Greg Abbott is all up in arms. Well, we're going to have to fire somebody now. Dude, you shouldn't have fucking hired her. Sorry. This is on you, and this is on your lazy ass administration. So you're either lazy or you're complicit. I'm not sure which one is worse. Sally Talberg is a former state utility director and has 25 years of experience in energy and environmental regulatory policy. She served as a gubernatorial appointee on the Michigan Public Service Commission from 2013 to 2020. You people in Michigan, Pam Jerome, you can testify to probably who this person is, including over 4 years as chair under 2 administrations. Ms. Talberg also served as president of the Organization of MISO States in 2016 as commissioner. Ms. Talberg served on various state, regional, and national boards and committees representing the NPSC on electricity, natural gas, oil, infrastructure, and telecommunications issues. Prior to the NPSC, Ms. Talberg was senior consultant at Public Sector Consultants. There she co-led the development of Michigan Saves, a nonprofit green bank that has financed over $200 million in energy efficiency projects. Oh boy, green bank. While also helping staff the state's wind zone board and other offshore wind council. She's a turbine wind person, green energy. She also served in an advisory capacity to commissioners at the Public Utility Commission of Texas. Okay, there's the Texas connection. And the Michigan Public Service Commission. She needs to be fired immediately, by the way. This woman needs to be removed immediately. Greg Abbott cannot compound the error of hiring her by keeping her on. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental and Natural Resources Policy Studies from Michigan State University and a master's degree in Public Affairs from the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas, Austin. Ms. Talberg lives in Michigan with her husband and 2 daughters. So she's got her hooks into 2 states here. Let's see what else we can find on her. A third, okay, check this out. Here we go. What the fuck are these people doing? Jesus. Check this out. This is from yesterday. ERCOT is in charge of Texas Power, but 1/3 of its board lives out of state. So there it is. These are the people that determine where your power is going. You better have a lot of faith and trust in them. ERCOT is governed by a board of directors, which then includes representatives from each industry segment: investor-owned utilities, municipal-owned utilities, cooperatives, generators, power marketers, and retail electric providers, and each consumer segment: industrial, commercial, and residential, plus a handful of unaffiliated independent members. Look, if anything is going to wake up the progressive robots in Austin, maybe this will be it. In total, the board includes a chair, vice chair, and 13 board members, plus 8 alternates. 5 of those members, including the chairwoman and vice chairman, do not appear to live in Texas. Jeff Leach, Republican Plano, called it completely ridiculous and said he would file a bill during this year's legislative session to require all officers and directors at ERCOT to live in Texas in the state. Well, that's a start. Governor Abbott makes ERCOT reform emergency legislative item amid blackouts. Yeah, now you got a real fucking emergency, okay? You don't have a fake emergency. Now you got a real emergency to deal with. Let's see how he responds to a real emergency, not a fake demic. This is a real emergency that was instituted by Sally Talberg, the chairwoman. She lives in fucking Michigan, okay? She lives in Michigan, according to her biography on ERCOT's website. Vice chairman Peter Crampton is a professor of economics at the University of Cologne in Germany. At the university, he's a professor in fucking Germany. And at the University of Maryland, he lives in Del Mar, California. Oh, he doesn't have to go through this shit. Vanessa Anseti-Para, a board member, serves as vice president of regulatory and compliance at Just Energy, and lists her location on LinkedIn as Toronto. Board member Terry Bolger spent his career as a banking professional in the United States, Canada, and in Europe. His biography on the ERCOT website states that he is a resident of Wheaton, Illinois, a Chicago suburb. Raymond Hepper, another board member, retired in 2018 from ISO New England, which operates the electric system and wholesale markets for the 6 states that make up the area. His LinkedIn profile lists his residency as Auburn, Maine. None of the 5 board members could be reached for comment on Tuesday. These people are internationalists. That was the old word for globalists, internationalists. They have no skin in the game here except to dismantle the power grid. Texas, by the way, has its own power grid. It is separate from the rest of the country. And they're making Texas pay for that, right? So what's going to be the next thing we're going to deal with? There's going to be food issues. Trust me, there are going to be food issues in the United States in the springtime. Bill Gates has been busy buying all the fucking farmland in Texas. Not Texas, I'm sorry, the United States. I mean, not all of it, but a good portion of it. So Bill Gates wants to control food. Control food. That's what he wants. And he just bought a major railroad line which controls distribution. You see where this is headed? People are already reeling because they're out of work because of the scamdemic. And now they're going to institute more pain, more suffering. And who's at fault here? Well, first of all, we're at fault. Because I know a lot of people, they're not into politics, okay? They're not into politics, and they think that government is not the answer. And I believe that that's true, ultimately. But now we're in a fix. And we've been in a fix because we've allowed these people to run these fucking programs without any real oversight. We've trusted our public officials to have the oversight to make sure that we are theoretically safe. And guess what? They have betrayed us. They've let us down and they've betrayed us. So now we have to get involved. This is why ultimately I'm running for city council. It's not something like, it was never at the top of my list. Gee, I want to run for city council. Gee, when I grow up, I want to be mayor. Gee, when I grow up, I did not come from, my father was not political. Whenever he was involved in a group, he quickly left the group. He left the group. They made him treasurer one time of the Porsche Club. And then he figured out that it was some, setup, and he left, right? Now, I don't know if it was a setup or not, but he left the group. He would do this stuff all the time. So he had no desire to be involved in politics. I wasn't raised in that environment. This is not something that was on my bucket list. But this is what I've told people. When my son was playing baseball, I watched who the coaches were, the managers of the team. I'm like, fuck, I could do better than that. These guys they're mediocre. In fact, his very first coach was the guy who played baseball at Stanford. He was like a pitcher on the Stanford baseball team. He was a lawyer. He was terrible. He was a terrible coach. He was terrible manager. And I'll be really honest here, Frank. When I got involved, there were a couple practices where he was gone. When I got involved, he kept having all these drills where he's working on fundamentals. I mean, that's really good, but unless you give kids real-time situations, like hitting them grounders, picking the ball up and throwing it to second base, first base, all that stuff, they just don't know what to do in a game time situation. So I started to do that. And guess what? The kids responded. And so we had a really good team, and we wound up going into the playoffs, and it was a good experience. But I thought to myself, I could do better than this. So we moved to Texas. I'm new. We get into Pony League in Austin, Oak Hill. My kid had a good tryout. And at that time, they had 2 classes for the 9, 10-year-olds. They had an upper division and a lower division. So he was drafted by an upper division team because he had a good tryout. And he got on this team, and it was a bunch of kids from the previous year. It was not a meritocracy. And they were very cliquish, froze my kid out. And it was hard to watch. I had to witness him go through that. And the coaches, they had a good team from the previous year, but they weren't doing as well. Well, you're not doing as well because you do the same fucking thing in practice every day. And look, they're not going to be watching my show. And they were actually okay guys. But you did the same fucking thing in practice every fucking day. When we have practice, we practice a lot, it was the same thing. Kids like variety. And they also like positivity. And they weren't really positive. They weren't positive. And there was this one kid on the team. And he was their first round pick or something because he could throw the ball hard. I'm not going to mention his name. Single mom, and the kid had issues. He had real issues. He could play, but he was on all kinds of drugs for ADD and all this other stuff, right? He was a mess. He was a mood elevator, going to the penthouse to the basement all the time. And he didn't do well with pressure. And I remember one game where we're playing this one game and he's supposed to pitch. And at that time I was in the dugout because I was like a third base coach. I was helping out in the dugout and doing shit. And he's sitting at the end of the bench, and I walk over to him, and he's hunched over, and he's cradling his stomach. And I look up at him, and he's got tears running down his eyes. And I'm like, this kid's a fucking mess. And he's supposed to pitch. I'm like, when I looked over at his mother and his grandmother, I said, what's going on with him? He's not doing well. And then it got really controversial because the manager thought that he was the best pitcher on the team and the best chance to win. And the coach didn't want to reward his bad behavior. And so they had a schism. Well, it wasn't bad behavior. The kid was not well. He was just not well. He was not well mentally, and the mental part was affecting his physiognomy. He was not well. And I'm like, what do you do with a kid like that? Here's what you do. You excuse him out of the dugout. You say, I think you should go sit in the stands right now. And just make sure your stomach's okay, and you find another pitcher. So what was interesting is that a couple of years later, when I was managing, I inherited a team. And he was on that team. And I had made up my mind that if this kid was ever in the draft, I was not going to draft him. Because even though he had some physical skills for throwing a baseball, mentally he was just not there. So now I have a team that has him. So what do I do? Well, I did everything in my power to help that kid. And I took him and my son to this baseball center. And they worked on batting, and they worked on pitching there. And then we went to this pizza place in the Hill Country, just in Dripping Springs area. And we bought some garlic knots and some pizza. He had never had garlic knots before, this kid. He loved them. He was really into them. In fact, he got another order of garlic knots so he could take it home to his grandmother and his mother. And I put a lot of time and faith into this kid. And he was the worst hitter. He was scared of a baseball. And I even, this is life works this way. When you invest in the right people, it pays off. It paid off for him. And he got over a lot of his head shit, what Sam would call his head trash. And he actually played really well. And I got to like him. He was a really good kid. Really, really good kid. And you don't get to see the evolution of an individual in a lot of ways. I learned a lot from baseball. I learned a lot from coaching these kids, which you can apply to life. So that kid who was huddled over in the corner of the dugout, who was cramped up, eventually he circled back. This is how life works. He circled back into my world. And I wasn't going to draft him because I knew that he was damaged goods. But now I have him. So what do? You do the best you can. And I think he had a really good experience after that. I liked the kid. He was a good kid. It didn't always work out that way. I remember one time I had another team I was managing, and it was a fall ball team. And I had this one kid, and he shows up. He's the last one at practice. His dad drives him up, and he's another basket case, but a different kind of basket case. Because the other kid really liked baseball. He wanted to play. So this other kid rolls up. Father drops him off. And I, give a high five. And he's sitting there, and he won't give me a high five. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So we go onto the field. I said, look, you can give me a secret high five if you want. And I think we're about 11 years old. And he doesn't do that. Like, okay. So then he gets out onto the field. And what's really interesting, you can see the dynamics that are set up with kids. Because psychically, the kids on my team knew that he was at the bottom of the pecking order. They knew it. They smelled it out like sharks. And it had to do with like what he was supposed to be doing on the field. And before the practice, I asked him, I said, so do you like baseball? Do you want to be here? Like, no hesitation. So, well, why don't you practice with us and see what it's like? And if you like it, why don't you stay? If not, then we'll have another conversation. And he practiced, and I said, so, hey, do you want to run with us? Do you want to be part of our team? Okay. His father rolls up, and I said, you have a second? I said, I'm not really sure how to tell you this, but your son doesn't want to be here. And he flipped out. He totally flipped out. And he said, this league is letting my son down. Look, I know he has problems, but I depend on this league, to help him out, blah, 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 blah. And you're letting him down. I'm like, no, I'm not letting him down. I'm telling you, he doesn't want to be here. And you can do with that whatever you want. You want to listen to your son. And he got really upset with me. And then I called the commissioner of the league. I said, look, you're going to get a call from a father. And he's not happy with me. I told him his son didn't want to be here. So, of course, that happened. And he called the commissioner, complained. And then guess what? Dropped. Nothing. Didn't come back. And I think, and I would see that kid around. He was an unusual kid. And I knew about him. I'd seen him play before. Like, he was different. He was not like the other kid who wanted to play. And then I would see him around because he had a brother that played. And he was happy. He didn't feel like playing baseball. But he was running around the field and watching shit and eating hot dogs. But he was happy. Right. So, you learn certain things when you do this stuff. And I'm probably the only person who, told him his kid didn't want to be there. Everybody else go, okay, I guess he's got to be here. Well, I didn't believe in that. What was in the kid's best interest? What was in his best interest was do something else. And I would run into these things from time to time with these players. And it was always interesting dealing with the parents. So I learned a lot. And sometimes I fucked up. Sometimes I made bad decisions. That's part of life. You learn from your mistakes. And there were times where, I got in trouble for some of the things that I did as a manager. I had 2 incidents with the commissioner, different commissioners, because of, things that I theoretically did. And one time I had these 2 mothers get on my case because I was rough on the kids. No, I wasn't rough on the kids. I was just giving them like discipline and motivation. And sometimes, it's just, he's really hard on his own kid. He swore at him one time. It was, and what's interesting is I actually became friends with one of the dissenting mothers. And I was actually an ally for her son later on, because my kid actually wound up playing on other teams with him. And in fact, they hung out and went to the green belt together. So again, it's a lesson, right? Like this woman was at one time, and she was adamant, man. She wanted to be fired from being a manager, fired. And wound up salvaging that relationship. And she actually really thanked me later on for my support of her son. But, for whatever reason, whatever I did, pissed her off. And it was these two single moms, one of whom was hit from the other side of the plate. Okay. Not that that's a big deal. It's just a detail. Her kids, again, another example, one of her kids was a girl. She didn't want to be there. She did not want to be there, but it was convenient for her because she worked and her son wanted to be there. So somebody needed to watch the kid, and that was me. And it was weird because I had a team called the Twins, and they were twins. Strange Gemini shit. And I remember one time we were at this practice facility near this gymnastics academy that Emily knows about. And we're in the batting cage, and the gymnastic academy is right over there. And what is she doing? She's looking at the fucking gymnastics. That's where she wanted to be. She didn't want to be in the batting cage. She's looking at the girls and saying, "Oh, gee, I'd like to do that." Didn't happen. Anyway, that's why I guess I'm running for city council, because I think maybe I might be able to do it better. I have no interest. I'd rather just do my shit, right? I'd rather do this, and who knows, maybe I'll be a source of controversy. Maybe I have to defend what I do here every day. I really don't care. I don't care. Because this is the way it is. So we'll see what happens. I am very fortunate, though, because I do have somebody in my corner here in town who is really great. She created a fantastic logo for me and is going to build a website for me. So you can't, it's like, that's, I'm a projector. I'm a 2.4 projector, and I got the invitation. That was the invitation. She gave me the invitation. All right, I got a reading in 30 minutes, so I gotta. I thought I'd run out of stories. Apparently not. Let's see. Where do I want to go? This Texas stuff is fucking ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Let me show you. Speaking of ridiculous, let me show you some major discrepancies with the Biden inauguration. Some of you may have seen this video. If not, pay attention. It's 6 minutes. It's well spent. Watch this. Here we go. Oh, my bad. There's an audio. I didn't hear the audio before, but there's an audio component to this. And if it's there, I want you guys to be able to hear it. Okay, here we go.
Noticed none of the military had any ranks or honors on their jackets. So I decided to go back and look at other past inaugurations.
Mercury retrograde.
I noticed Bush, they had their ranks on their jackets. I looked at Obama. This isn't actually the inauguration, but it is a laying of the wreath. For some reason, the video wouldn't edit that I found for Obama's inauguration. But you can see here, they all have their military rank on their jackets. And the next one you'll see with Trump. Trump has his. And I want you to notice, too, that all three of them were able to touch the wreath and kind of push it back on the stand. But I want you to notice Biden's on what happens with his here, because his is different. Because remember, there's no military rank on any of the jackets anywhere. You can't find them. And you're going to see he doesn't walk down the steps. He walks out from the left if you're facing the tomb, which is weird. So you see there's no military ranking on any military officer there. They don't get to touch the wreath for some reason. They have to walk up to it and do this awkward, hey, buddy, how you doing, kind of thing. And then they stand there, look at it, and then they turn around and walk back. So why? I also want to point out that they did the 21 gun salute with 2 guns actually at the cemetery when he arrived to the tomb of the unknown soldier. And then you got these 3 knuckleheads that showed up for some reason, which is weird too. And they showed up way before the family did, because you can see the family walking in. But I figured out why they did the 1 minute and 22 seconds of silence or awkwardness from my last video. It was because they were supposed to do the 21 gun salute after the president got sworn in. This is Trump's 21 gun salute directly after he got sworn into office as president. Now you can go back and you can find videos where you can hear Obama's going off, you can hear Bush's going off, but Biden didn't do it for some reason. And the military didn't have their honors on or their ranks. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now, I want to read this about the 21 gun salute. It says, in accordance with the ceremonial standard operating procedure of the 3rd U.S. Infantry, i.e. the Old Guard, the various gun salutes are assigned as follows. Each round in a given salute is fired one at a time. The number of cannon used in a battery depends upon the intervals between each round fired. Now, I want you to notice that Trump had 4 cannons firing. Now, the military code says they want an odd number firing, so this isn't all that awkward with 4 of them firing. But I want you to look back at Biden's inauguration when they're laying the wreath and he's pulling up, that there's 3 cannons there. 2 are actually firing every 6 seconds, which will bring it to 2 minutes and 6 seconds by the time it's all done. Now, this is interesting here. A 3-gun battery firing 2 of its guns with 5-second intervals between rounds and 1 gun remaining at the ready in case of a misfire. Such a battery would be used at an armed forces full honors funeral or for a state arrival ceremony of a foreign dignitary at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. So they were firing 2 guns that is right on with this for a arrival of a foreign dignitary. What's up with that? I think you can figure that out now, can't you?
There you go. So there's some high strange there. He's not president. He did not perform the necessary rituals. The necessary rituals were not performed, and those things are important. They're big, right? This is a hold on a second. This is a society that's based on ritual. It's a planet based on ritual, especially rituals when it comes to power. in transition. That did not happen. Didn't happen. So we're working with a government that is illegitimate. It's an illegitimate government. He's an illegitimate president. I mean, everything about it is illegitimate. From the time that he was sworn in, well, he wasn't sworn in at 12 noon. He was sworn in at 11:43 while Donald Trump was still president. We've never seen anything like this before. All right, where do I want to go? I don't have a lot of time left today because I got to do a reading transition out of here. There's a lot that I want to talk about. I did want to talk about Cuomo. David and I touched on this yesterday. Astrologically, he's got the South Node conjuncting Saturn. Look at the size of that robin. Oh my, what is this bird? This bird is like the B-52 of birds. An enormous bird. Jesus. Word is out on the street. Anyway, Cuomo, South Node on Saturn, South Node on the Sun, a time of reckoning for him. Somebody left a really interesting comment on David's page, and it was about Stephen Forrest. And Stephen Forrest said that under Saturn and Aquarius, that the progressives would have a harder time than the Republicans or the right, who had a harder time with Saturn and Capricorn. You might be right there. Let me show this to you. This is Chuck Schumer. Another cancerous tumor on the body of the collective. Chuck Schumer repeatedly refuses to answer questions about Cuomo nursing home scandal. Andrew Cuomo's COVID nursing home scandal has become a major liability for the Democrats. Senator Chuck Schumer of New York was recently questioned about it repeatedly and wouldn't give an answer. For the first time in a long time, a reporter actually asked a Democrat a tough question. Now they get the tough questions. Schumer ducks question on Cuomo's nursing home cover-up. The scandal involving New York Governor Andrew Cuomo for allegedly covering up the real data on coronavirus-related nursing home deaths. Saturn is older. South Node conjunct Saturn in Sagittarius has to do with truth. The truth is being revealed. See how this works? A friend and ally of Cuomo, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat in New York, dodged a question on the policy implemented by Cuomo's administration, ultimately cost thousands of preventable deaths. If you're like a child or grandchild of one of those people that were shuttled off into those nursing homes, and really what was done to them is they were put on intubation. They had their lungs blown out. That's what happened. Remember how they were crying for all the ventilators? And I don't know what was up with Trump, but he's like, "Oh yeah, this is a wartime effort, and you know we've tasked forward with building all these ventilators." And I know that there's like some kind of underground Q reason. There's always, I hate to say this, and I know some people are not going to like it, but there's always that Q justification for why something is done. In reality, there was this immediacy to create these death machines, and people who didn't know how to use them properly, they were the perpetrators. So this is what happened. They wound up on these ventilators and they had their lungs blown out. Here's what Schumer says. He appeared in Camillus, New York on Monday, holding a press conference about securing aid to restaurants. No, open the fucking restaurant, you moron. We cannot close them, he told reporters. Why not? You've done everything in your power to do it, to aid and abet the closing of our businesses. They're needed because they're so important to our communities. Oh, right. They're needed because they're one of the biggest employers in every community. Now, all of a sudden, they're on the right side of this issue, literally and figuratively. If people don't see this and understand this, that they are fucking hypocrites, I'm not sure what it's going to take. These people engineered the demise of those restaurants, okay? And now they want to come in and they want to be the avenging angels. Horseshit. Schumer, however, was not interested in entertaining questions on the ongoing nursing home scandal, rocking the Cuomo administration, twice ignoring a reporter's inquiries. She attempted to ask the majority leader about the issue while he remained at the podium, but he ignored it. She asked again as he walked to his vehicle, but again, Schumer did not respond. CNY Central said Schumer's press team knew the outlet planned to ask the questions. Hours later in the Capital Region, Senator Schumer hosted a similar press conference and abruptly left without taking questions. There he is. Let's see, do we have the video on this thing? Let me make sure I have the audio up. All right, watch him. Watch the Artful Dodger.
We reached back out to the senator's press team after this exchange and invited them to provide an additional response. Hours later in the Capital Region, Senator Schumer hosted a similar press conference and abruptly left without taking questions.
No? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to get on my way. Have a nice day. No, just thank you.
Assembly Minority Leader Will Barclay says hearing about this is disappointing.
And though he is the Senate Majority Leader and has, more on his plate now, presumably, he still has constituents in New York. He represents New York.
I think anybody who's elected that's aware of this situation in New York owes it to the citizens of New York to step forward and help facilitate having government being able to get to the bottom of this issue.
He's calling for a full investigation. I'm Mary Keeler reporting.
So there you go. I think there's another video here. Which one is it? I guess that's it. But there's an actual video where she's asking the questions. She's asking the questions. The reporter. It's not there. Anyway. Here we are. We're in a time of revelation and reckoning. And the revelations are happening now on the other side of the ledger sheet, and there will be a reckoning for them. There will be a reckoning for them. And, people standing in line at HEB. There are lines like a quarter of a mile long for people to get into HEB in Austin to get their food. Ridiculous. Sorry, it's ridiculous. Not HEB, by the way. They're the prisoners of the moment. And HEB has done an amazing job in terms of keeping the supply chain open and getting food into the stores. No, I'm talking about the people who, when confronted with a crisis that essentially makes them uncomfortable for 3 days, meaning they don't have enough food or they don't have enough water or whatever, that they've got to go run to the fucking store and wait out in sub-freezing temperatures in order to get their supplies. What have I been talking about now for the last 2 fucking years? I said you need at least a month's worth of supplies, food, water. You need to have alternate forms of cooking your food, like a gas stove, like propane. Laura Logan from Fox, she lives in this town. And her power was out. She had to go run to Vapo to go get propane. Like, Laura, come on. Why don't you have propane? I've got 60 pounds of propane, just kind of hanging out, waiting to be used, and I haven't had to use any of it. You know, people, you know, and they think that, oh, well, preppers are weird or preppers are paranoid. Oh, really? How paranoid are they now? And that's just a week, like a week of discomfort. Well, there's going to be a ripple effect. Watch the supply chain now. Watch what happens with food. Watch what happens with Bill Gates as he gets his fingers, you know, into our so-called reality and starts to socially engineer everything. And even if you have like 6 months worth of food, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to like deal with what's coming. And what are they going to do now? They're going to make sure that everybody loses their fucking guns. That's the next move. Because they don't want people either defending their month's worth of prepped material. That's going to happen. That's coming. Wait for the false flags. They're going to come. They've got this nutcase, Barbara Jackson Lee, who brings up this legislation every year. And by the way, Biden has even said that he's going to sign an executive order to override the Second Amendment. You can't do it, by the way. Constitutionally, you cannot do that. And yet, that's what they're chirping with an illegitimate presidency. So I wish I had something funny or uplifting that I could leave you with today. Unfortunately, I don't. So you have to be your own source of positivity. You have to be your own source of inspiration today. You have to go out there and find something that is meaningful, that cuts through the tension, but is not a soporific. Kobe Bryant kicked off the CV 1984 program. Yep, we covered that ostensibly. Well, we covered it in an in-depth fashion. We connected the connections with Corona Del Mar, Corona, California, links to the Kobe Bryant helicopter tragedy, passing the crown of LA and the quote unquote best player in the NBA to the king, LeBron James. Yep, that's what happened. It was Kobe Bryant. Oh, Rosie just went after one of those pigeons. Good luck, Rosie. She was nuts yesterday. You know what I do want to leave you with? Maybe I can find this thing. It's actually kind of funny. A little levity. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so in retrospect, I become a huge Muhammad Ali fan. I didn't really like him when he was fighting, although let's be honest, the guy was pretty amazing in terms of his ability to, like, you know, spout poetry. And I do respect like his black separatist ideology. I respect it. He was unwavering with that. But remember, he also has Mercury and Venus in Aquarius. So he's different. Let me show you how different Ali is. When I saw this, I was like fucking in stitches. I mean, who knows? I might get another copyright strike. I don't know. At this point, you know where to go. Find me on Vimeo. Find me on BitChute. I got to play this. This is hilarious shit. All right, watch this. This is him on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he's there to promote his fight with Ken Norton. The second fight. First fight, Ken Norton broke his jaw. All right, here we go. Okay, I was told that there's no sound here. Let me try to hook the sound back up. I thought I had hooked it up. I apologize. I'm sure you guys really enjoyed just staring at me, staring at the screen. Let's try it again. I thought I'd have the sound. Thanks, Ani. Let's try it again. Here we go.
Muhammad Ali has been on the show, I suppose, 6 or 7 times, and he is usually introduced first, but we thought it was only fair to introduce Ken first tonight since you beat him the last time out. Fair enough?
No argument.
Okay, would you welcome Muhammad Ali?
I've been
You
studying.
seem quite reserved tonight. What?
I've been studying UFOs. Did you know there are UFOs out here flying around unidentified?
This would be the place for him, Southern California.
I'm serious. They sighted a bunch over Georgia. I've seen them at night. They have real photos of them, and the government, the people just completely seem like don't talk about it. But Mr. Harold Salkin of Washington, D.C., is the head of the National UFO Bureau.
Right.
He brought me moving films. I actually have moving pictures of low saucers of great steel objects coming into pictures that people took. And I'm just surprised that don't nobody talk more about it. Something they can.
Another great insight into the fight game. No, I just kidding. No, I read that. But did you read the thing last night on the news?
No.
That some physicists said that what the people of Georgia might have seen were that there are probably several thousand satellite objects
No.
going around the United States, around the Earth, and sometimes they disintegrate and they come back into space.
Not 50 feet over the highway.
Well, it could. It's got to land somewhere.
No. They call it swamp gas and something they don't want. I don't know what it is, but I think I do. But there are actual saucers and objects coming within our atmosphere and flying around, and people got pictures. Everybody cite the same thing in every city, the red and blue and green lights. But the people, authorities completely brush it off as if to say we are mentally off. But I know it's right because I've been seeing them.
Well, why don't they land then, Muhammad? I mean, if they're intelligent people, why wouldn't they land and step out and say, hi there? Or Galvin Ding, whatever they say. You know, why wouldn't they make contact?
They probably figure they can't get no sense out of the people here in this place.
We've never talked about that on the show. I didn't know you really believed in
Actual
UFOs.
photos. I have moving films.
Yeah, but can't they can motion picture
This
film,
is
and you're
no
smart
trick.
enough to know that
This
in still pictures they can.
Not
They can
these-
phony
these-
those
these are-
up.
These are not phony.
Ken, how do you feel about it? You believe they're flying saucers?
I'm an innocent bystander.
But you've seen them.
And the night, the one you can see on Tuesdays and Thursdays is like a big bright star if you go out.
Tuesdays and
It's
Thursdays.
like a big bright star. I'm
Are you sure
serious.
you're up for this fight?
I'm serious.
If you're thinking about that when Monday night comes, he's going to knock your head off.
No, I'm serious.
You're going
I'm
to say it's
serious.
10 o'clock. He's going to give you such a shot.
No, it's not 10 o'clock. It's 4 and 5 in the morning.
4 and 5 in the morning.
Seriously, it's like a big bright star, and you see it moving, and it'll go up and disappear and get real small like a pinhead, and then it'll come back and it'll shake, and then it might go over here. Seriously, I'm serious. I'm not.
Well, I know you're serious in your belief. I
and
don't
this is
happen
not
to
my
believe in it
belief. This
myself.
is anybody who's got eyes.
Well, you can see a lot of things, but that doesn't always make them objects from other planets.
Much of that. What about the fight?
Well, yeah, what about the fight? Monday night, right?
There you go. A little bit of levity or anti-gravity from Muhammad Ali. You know, you got to love that Mercury and Venus and Aquarius just bopping in right out of nowhere. Just first thing out of his mouth, UFOs. UFOs. And you don't see things like that anymore. You don't see that kind of unexpected. You don't see those unexpected sorts of moments. That was really cool about the 70s. There was those unexpected, weird, high, strange. Everything is so scripted now. Everything's so scripted. Even if the script is really bad. So what does that mean? It means you get to be the free radical, the agent of change, or the change agent in your own life. And it's always more interesting if you take the unexpected path or the unexpected route. And astrologically, it actually rewards that kind of perspective. So I'm out of here for the day. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for being patient. Everybody, stay safe, stay warm, but don't stay complacent. Don't stay complacent. Let your voice be heard. And let them be heard together. It is, for all intents and purposes, the age of Aquarius. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been part of 15 Minutes of Flame. Use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart, too, statement what's possible. One more time, a big thanks and shout out to a good friend, David Palmer, for really firing me up last night. I needed that. It was great. And then he'll be back with me on Sunday night. So big thanks, big shout out to the Leo King. And love to the rest of you. Take good care. Bye for now.